Because of you, my dad gets a podcast.
What's up, guys? This is Corey, also known as QC Rideshare. And so I really wanted to just get into this Takl podcast because it is something that you guys have been asking me about, and it's something that I've kind of stayed away from. But I figure, now's a good time to just go ahead and speak. I want to get it out the way, and then you guys will have the content up there that you can always reference. And so, just as a very quick background with me and Takl, I signed up with Takl. I was one of the early people to sign up with Takl in my market. I'm in the Charlotte market. I did a few videos talking about my experiences with them. They were all positive. Then, let's see, after I would say probably about my 15th to 20th job with Takl, I was contacted by Takl to let them know that they wanted to put me in. It was essentially I guess how to say it. It's essentially their preferred provider program in which they would pay me a higher commission for every job that I did. Obviously, more money is always a good thing. So I signed up for that program after being in their preferred provider program. I was asked to do a TV spot for them in which they were featured. They were featured in a national news broadcast on the gig economy. I actually was in the same segment with Angie from Angie's List, and you'll actually see that video on my YouTube channel. And then, let's see. So I did a few more videos about them and how I felt about them. And then I had an experience that I thought was handled. I thought I had an experience with a job where there was some confusion about the job, and instead of contacting me or reaching out to me to just say, hey, what's going on, they temporarily suspended my account for the weekend, which for that app, that's more of their busiest time of the year. So I did a video pretty much stating that I felt as if obviously they have to protect themselves and the customer, but I thought that the way they handled the situation is detrimental to their contractors, and that's something that they need to improve on. Shortly after that, I got a phone call from a representative from Takl letting me know that he did not appreciate my video and essentially threatened me to take the video down. As I've always told you with my content, I'm not going to sacrifice the integrity of the content for anybody. And so I actually did a video stating that, hey, this guy just called me up and threatened me because he didn't like my video. And he acknowledged that it was a mistake for why my account was temporarily suspended, and that he would go in and fix it. Well, when my video posted about how I stated that he threatened me and I called him out by name, he went ahead and suspended my account. So that was my time with Takl. And I thought for a while that my situation or my experience with Takl was very unique. Obviously, through the comments that I received, and I've got so much feedback that my experience is nowhere near unique. That this is almost common business practices for Takl. So I would like to share my viewpoints on them. Obviously, some folks may agree, some may disagree, some may find it just, look, if you think you find any value in what I say, then obviously keep listening. If not, then hey, I'll see you in the next one. But there's a few things that I've learned about Takl since this time period that really kind of raised a hair on the back of my neck, because it was like, something's not right. What's up, guys? This is Corey, and I just wanted to really quickly tell you about a brand new podcast that I have absolutely been in love with. This podcast called Shutter Count, and what it talks about is amateur and pro photography. Ever since I was a kid, I've always wanted to get into photography. Unfortunately, it's something I never got a chance to truly experience and evaluate and try to investigate it to see what I need to do to become a great photographer. In this podcast, not only are they going to talk to you about techniques, tricks, tips to become a better photographer, they're going to talk about software that they use, cameras that they use, lenses, how to set up the perfect picture, and are going to do it in a way that the amateur like me can understand, but also the pro that you are can understand. So check it out. Shutter Count. It's on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and all your podcast formats. And always, you can check it out on Anchor FM. That's Shutter Count. So anybody knows who works for a company, or you know that you've done subcontract work, or if you're in the gig economy, you've done like Uber and Lyft, that you know that at the end of the year, you get your tax forms. Usually you get a tax form if you made over $600 for that month. Um, and so, I mean, I'm sorry, not for that month, for that year. However, Takl decided that they were only going to issue tax forms for anything over $20,000 for the year, which is an absurd amount of money, A. And B, it's not legal. And I I actually got an email regarding this because I reached out to their help team, and that's the response I got. I forwarded that to my accountant because I'm like, this doesn't sound right. And he was like, dude, I'm so happy that you're not with them anymore because you'd probably be in so much tax issues. So that's one of the first things that were like a red flag. The other red flags came from people like you guys just telling me of things that they're doing that seem very suspicious. Now, everybody knows my feelings when it comes to paying for background checks and paying for to get onto platforms. You know that I'm sternly against it. Um, Obviously, if the cost for it is very minimal, like, hey, you're only paying, $4.99 or so to get on this platform, then go ahead and sign up for it. And that's one thing. As long as that $4.99 has a certain, there's a, as long as that amount has a actual benefit to you, meaning it's doing something for you. But anytime you start getting companies saying that they need you to pay for background checks and things like that, that always causes me to question what that company's about. And the reason why I say that is because many of these companies share background check information. I'll give you an example. When I signed up for Takl, at the time, Takl used the same background check company that Lyft uses, which the only way I knew that is because when I signed up for Takl, I looked into it said check on your status of your background check, and I saw my Lyft information and the dates and all that information sitting there as well. So that means that Takl is pretty much paying a bulk amount and just having access to information. They're not actually running the background check. So the fact that they are suddenly started charging people to do background checks is a big red flag because basically they're not paying for normal business expenses. Anytime you run a business, there are certain things that are just normal business expenses. Um, it's almost like going to a restaurant and to them trying to charge you for an additional amount in addition to your meal, an additional amount for the temperature of the room to be at a comfortable temperature. It doesn't make any sense. Why would you do that? I came here for that comfort, and you're wanting to charge me extra. Same thing with background checks. In order for these companies to do business, they need contractors. They're demanding the background check. So you're demanding the background check, but then you're also going to charge me, and then you're not even going to give me a criteria on what you will pass or fail. Which leads me to the next thing, which is many people who reaching out to Takl to let them know that they may have had issues in their past and that they were concerned that it may fail them for background checks, then them going ahead and then them being told, oh no, go ahead and apply anyway, them paying the money for the background check and then being immediately declined, which I think is just scummy. That's just, there's no way that you can excuse that, especially if they're saying, look, I have this kind of charge in my history. I know that information, I would just imagine that information would have to be hard to give up anyway, just because no one wants to really share that information. But in addition to that, to go ahead and act like um, in good faith, check to see if they qualify for your platform when you know they don't. I think that's just awful. Um, the other thing that is, I think, pretty bad as well is um, not having any work. Um, and one of the complaints that I constantly get is people going on the Takl. Obviously, them advertising that they have all these different jobs available for people to do. They go on and they look for tasks that they want to do. 2 months pass, 3 months pass, nothing. Then they reach out to Takl saying, hey, I want my money back because there's no jobs on this platform for what I want to do. And then within minutes, a job fitting the description of what they want to do pops up in their area. They click on it to say that they want to do it. And then an hour later, that job cancels. I mean, you can assume what you want, but that kind of behavior doesn't pass the smell test. So that's just a couple things. Tomorrow we'll come back with the second half of things that I have been made aware of with Takl that obviously make me kind of cringe or make me take a step back from thinking that it's a platform worth pursuing. Um, just before we go, excuse me, the podcast, as you already know, is listener supported, and I definitely appreciate any all who support the podcast and the work that we do. We're actually trying to build a podcasting network called the Gig Podcasting Network. Currently, we have 3 other podcasts that are currently out. In addition, so we have this one and 3 others. So we have the Get Ripped podcast, which is a fitness and wellness podcast. Um, we have excuse me. We have the Stretch 4 podcast, which is a basketball centric podcast, and the RPO podcast. And also we have the Lamar and Corey show, which is from the mind of my 7-year-old son. So we actually have 5 total podcasts on our network. So definitely whenever you see any of those titles, support them, rate them, subscribe. Um, it all helps. If you know a friend who's into any of those things, grab their phone and subscribe to the podcast for them. But until the next one, peace.